What if you were to think bigger? What if you were to trust yourself when you're rested, when you're happy, when you're smiling, when you feel gratitude in your heart, then your desires are possible and within reach, even if they're pretty crazy ones. We don't lose money because we are dumb. We lose money because of a psychological glitch that's hidden to us. Let's say you are investing and you buy a stock at $300. After a week, the stock has fallen to $200. And instead of asking yourself, is this stock actually worth $200 today? We whisper to ourselves, let me just go back to 300, okay, and then I'm gonna sell it. As soon as it goes back to 300, I promise, I know it's not worth it. And we wait. And you know what happens? We lose even more money. That whisper has cost investors fortunes. And it's probably costing us a lot right now as well. We don't stay broke because of bad luck. A trick so small, it feels harmless, but it's silently draining more and more wealth. And failed investments, bad trades, and missed promotions, they just keep accumulating. Anchoring is the trap of worshipping old numbers that don't matter anymore. Anchoring keeps us chained to the past instead of negotiating today's numbers. In 2008, investors anchored themselves to the numbers of 2006. They refused to sell below the prices of 2006. Many rode their homes into foreclosure, while others bought bargains. Let's say you bought a house in 2006 for $100,000. 2008 comes, you're still paying your mortgage, but the value of the house just goes down so much so quickly. And you can smell the crisis arriving, like something is wrong. You have the chance to sell your house at $80K, but you decide not to because it's not the $100K to which you bought it for. You're actually expecting the value even to go higher. For you, that house is worth $100,000+. And they're offering you 80? No way. You're gonna refuse and you're gonna wait. Because you think that this is just a bubble, it's gonna get better soon. Whatever you keep telling yourself instead of taking a truthful look around, and you keep that house and it ends up going into foreclosure. Another guy, he bought a very similar house in a very similar neighborhood for $100,000 in 2006 as well. 2008 comes and he has the chance to sell his house for $80K. He stops, he thinks a moment, he looks at the situation and he's like, well, let's see what happens. I'm gonna sell. The situation doesn't smell good. What's going on? It's very worrisome. I'm gonna take as much money as I can and see what happens. And he sells for $80K. A few months after that, when the crisis has really hit, that guy has $80K in his bank account. And he goes and he buys a house that in 2006 would have costed $200,000. And he buys it for $80K. Now, few years have passed. He had that $80K in his account. He was able to buy a house for nothing that was worth much more. And now that house has gained value that any other would have. Not only he didn't lose, but he actually made money. He made money by thinking what's the best thing that today he can do without anchoring himself to the 100K, to those previous numbers that we all had in mind. Let me give you another example. Some time ago, in cryptocurrencies, when Bitcoins were worth $60,000, I know the amount now makes you laugh, many have anchored to that number. And when Bitcoin actually started going lower and reached 40K, they froze and they just waited for it to go back. The situation lasted quite a while. So for a moment, they had their assets frozen into something that was going down. Other investors sold Bitcoin while it started going down and relocated their assets into assets that were growing in that moment. So that when Bitcoin started growing again, they just rebought it and made a lot of money. I have to tell you, honestly, it took me quite a while to understand this. In my career, I have anchored my value and my salary to what a boss would tell me, to what a colleague was earning, thinking I deserve more or I deserve less, instead of letting those thoughts just fly away from me and asking myself, what is the value that I am bringing to the table in this company? What value am I creating today? I can assure you, I would have left some jobs much earlier than how long I have stayed. And here is the kicker, which hurts a little bit. The more clever you are, and the more dangerous anchoring gets. Unfortunately, intelligence just makes us better at justifying bad anchors and makes it harder for us to let them go. And then there is worse, because if you thought that anchoring is not such a big deal, then let me tell you this. Anchoring is not about weakness at all. Anchoring is about our own identity. I'm not the kind of person that sells at a loss. As long as I don't close the trade, I could be ending up having a winning one. I deserve more than that salary that's been given to that person. I'll never accept less than what I once had. Beautiful sentences, right? Identity matters. But here is what's really challenging. What about keeping our identity of people that do not settle, of strong and intelligent humans that want to be crazy wealthy, but we upgrade our behavior towards something that's just a tiny bit more beneficial for us? We do not worship past numbers. We make the best decisions that we can today. That to me sounds like freedom. When we say, I'll sell when it gets back to the number that I want it to be, we are literally saying that we are waiting for the past to give us permission for something that we want to do today. A better way to think about it would be to just reframe the thinking for just a little tweak. If we say, if I discover this chart today of this specific stock, would I buy it here and now or not? And why? If you would not buy it, then why holding to it? Let's talk about our salaries. Anchoring hijacks gratitude. You cannot stay and keep thinking thoughts that are highly anchoring you in one direction and feeling gratitude at the same time for the salary that you're having right now. We go from higher salary to higher salary and we are super happy until we don't meet somebody that has an even higher salary. And we think, wow, wait, I want that as well for myself. And suddenly we are ungrateful for the salary that we are getting today. Why? Because we started anchoring ourselves to a different number. Now, it's super important to keep growing, to wanting always more, and to having bigger and bigger goals. And we stand for that. But the truth is that value is not a comparison. Value is in creation. Anchoring has bankrupted more companies, careers, and investors than any recession ever had. Think about Kodak, extremely famous example. Kodak invented digital photography. Wow, amazing, right? But they are anchored themselves to the profits that we're making in the film industry. They kept defending the old numbers and they lost the future. Write this down and tape it to your screen. If we wouldn't buy today, we wouldn't keep it today. We exit when our risk line breaks. Entry price does not matter. Let's think in terms of percentages and not prices. Start thinking, okay, which growth percentage is realistic from here, from where we are today? And what is the expected value of a stock, for example? If we stay versus if we switch to something else. Percentages point forward, while anchors point backward. I still remember when I was watching TV and sometimes on the media they would comment something, the weather, the prices of a certain good, and they would start saying something like, oh, the weather has never looked so bad or so good. It's so funny because past performances do not predict future results. It's a very well-known bias, that one in which just because something has happened for a very long time, it's gonna keep happening forever. That's not true. It's like saying just because from when I was born until today, I woke up every day, tomorrow I'm also gonna wake up. You actually don't know that. Life is a gift. Today is worth living, but today is what we have. I'm gonna give you one example of anchoring that regards myself. I have anchored myself to a certain number, a certain weight that I was when I was 20. I'm not 20 anymore. My body has changed, but I keep thinking, oh, only when I have that specific amount of weight, then I'm gonna look the best, I'm gonna feel great. But actually, that's absolutely not true. When your body composition changes, you also change. I'm sleeping better than when I was 20, I'm eating and drinking much better, and my body as a woman has changed, and that's just what it is. I do not need to go back to a certain amount of weight to feel great in my own skin, but I'm waiting to give myself permission to do that. Isn't that crazy? Anchoring is really the psychological trick that's keeping us stuck very often in our career for the things that we want. I mean, imagine this. What if we were not thinking about, oh, I want to go back to my weight when I was 20 or take the same paycheck as this other guy? What if we open the door and ask ourselves, if I were the best version of myself, how would I look like? What would then my weight be? Maybe I would be much heavier than when I was 20, but I would have more muscles. Maybe I would stop desiring a 200K salary because that still keeps me stuck. If I were wanting real and true freedom, maybe I would have my own business and generating 100K a year, but living freely. What if we stop anchoring to anything from the past and we start thinking today, if we were free, how to keep on going and what we want our life to look like? Money freedom in our career does not come from having the same thing as somebody else has, but comes from having a carefully crafted desire and goal towards which we are going, and knowing that today we are taking one small step in that direction. What if you were to think bigger? What if you were to trust yourself when you're rested, when you're happy, when you're smiling, when you feel gratitude in your heart, then your desires are possible and within reach, even if they're pretty crazy ones. So today, I stop anchoring and I started dreaming and building just a tiny bit bigger.